everybody. This is Diane, Dose of Unity.
Capriana.
And then this is Jevon. So we are super excited today to be talking to Jevon. You know, it's just been a wild ride getting to know you and your work and your mission, your passions. And so we're just really excited to talk a little bit more with Jevon today and just to have all of you hear what we're talking about. So yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I am fangirling over here because this woman is an absolute powerhouse. Like, truly, we could not be more proud of the work that you do in our community. It's so unique, it's so different, and it's so needed. So needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, okay, let's jump in. I'm just going to start by asking some questions. So what I would like to know is if you can share, Jevon, a little bit about you and like what you're doing specifically to help stop the cycle of generational trauma in the Black community.
Okay. Well, in order for me to really get to where where I am today is I have to start from the roots of my life back in Chicago. And so I really had a really horrible experiences growing up in Chicago with bad experiences. Brought bad behavior, okay? And those behaviors just became normalized. Had a great mother and father, so let's be clear. They did a great job with raising their 8 babies. But what my mother did is taught us what she knew. And what she knew is to survive being poor. So she taught us how to be poor. Mm-hmm. She didn't teach us how to necessarily get out there and thrive and become more than what she became, even though she was awesome. Because let's be clear, my mother is the second coming to me. I love her. But as I began to look deep in the psychological damages in the community, in the Black community, when I became a little older, like this is so much is happening here. And it's so complex and this happens every day. It's no wonder why the kids have recreated trauma, because that's what they did. Not necessarily, when I mean recreate, I'm simply saying that they took an already challenging situation and made it more challenging because nobody is stopping it. So they just recreated bad behavior, recreated bad habits, and things like that. And for me, so many funerals.
No, the funerals were
gun violence, attached to gun violence. And sorry if I get a little emotional. I just want everybody to know holistically who I am and why do I do this. So in 2012, like I've shared with you, my nephew was murdered. Pierre is in representation of his name of the safe house, Pierre Outreach Services. Everything that I do, when I wake up, I invoke him in the work, because psychologically, now that I understand today what that baby was going through and what we didn't understand while he was going through it, because of the normalization of the violence and everything, we really didn't know what to do. And but before my nephew was murdered, prior to him getting murdered, I lost 2 favorite cousins at the age of 13. It's when I first was introduced to gun violence in Chicago and how, in my generation. Right. And I was 13 years old, and one of them was murdered in my face at 13. And my mama did not get me any, help, and that was my boy. That was. I'll be lying to you ladies to tell you his name was Larry. I would be lying to you ladies, if I didn't tell y'all the reason why I'm here today, because he instilled that self-esteem that my mother just couldn't give me, because she was from a different generation, and he told me, like, this is who you are. It's some things he saw in me that back then that I couldn't necessarily, I didn't understand about myself. But this young man, which is my blood cousin, he's seen it and he kept me with him. He taught me things. Nobody's better than you. He gave it to me all. And sure, he gave it to me. That brother was putting in 13. So when he died at 13, being in them spaces, now he's gone. And then my cousin Maurice also was murdered. He was the second one after Larry to help instill how to be a Black woman and not fall into those ghetto traps of how everybody else was thinking. So at 13, I knew way more than what I should. So during my development, 14, 15, 16, 17, just growing up, it's a lot of times I had to reduce myself down just to have friends. Because everybody was just basically doing the same bad habits.
Well, and we've talked about this many times with anybody who's like the whole dose of unity concept is trying to find ways that we can connect, but we don't know what we don't know, right? And so when you're saying that, and just kind of the cycle continues. The same thing with how you were raised or how I was raised, as far as the older I get, everything from cooking, behavior, your habits, just all of it could be healthy or not healthy, or it's the way everybody thinks around you. So how can someone think differently, right?
Yeah. Again, for me, my mother, so we had that solid foundation. But when you introduce a solid foundation to what was spewing off into the streets, it wasn't only so much she can do, because we had to go out into the community and defeat that.
Right.
Overcome that, because it's some things that she just couldn't understand that we was going through. Right. And she still really don't understand to this day when I try to bring her into psychologically what I was going through. And when I mean bring my mother in, like, mother, we don't believe in therapy, getting help in the Black community. This is just something that we just don't do. We get up and we deal with this stuff and we survive and we just get up and live and nobody cares. Everybody's just going day to day knowing that it's killing us, it's breaking us down every day. Now imagine in my development, 13, 14, feeling like this is it. This is it. That will drive anybody crazy.
Yeah, so you wonder why, and then you get that background, and that's exactly what it is. So when you understand, like, from your perspective, how that affects people, it's like us looking from the outside in. It's like, oh, that's why. Versus just being like, well, get it together. It's like, no, like there are some pretty serious things going on, like with the generational cycle. It's been going on. It's normal now. Yeah,
and not just normal in the Black community, but it's normal to the white community in opposed to how they inflict these kind of standards.
Sure.
Tell us what we are. Tell us where we should live. Tell us who we are through media. Just don't have to be through politics. And when I look on TV, I'm seeing a certain way that a Black woman projects herself, and that's popular. But to a Black woman like me, no, we know what's wrong with her.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But they highlight.
They
highlight the bad behavior.
Think about the music industry right now and like what becomes popular. Isn't it so frustrating? I mean, I'm around my Black family very little now, but being around them and listening to that sort of thing and like kind of, I'm like, I get it, but I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Where it's that's that white part in me where it's like seeing both sides. It's just you sit there in this space and. I can't imagine having that experience, and I think I shared this story. My grandma got
the white
up in the
side
South
of
Side.
you is a human side of you.
Sure.
So it does not, although it is a white and Black thing, it's not a white and Black thing at the same time.
It's certainly a human thing.
It's a human thing.
No, absolutely.
So
just interesting the experiences because my grandmother my mom grew up in the South Side of Chicago, so that's kind of where my Black family still lives, a lot of them, out west too. So when I go and visit them, it's just culturally different, and so seeing those things and then being removed from those things and having my grandma, got her nursing degree and my grandfather was a mechanic and kind of really tried hard to get my uncles and my mom out of there because they did see that. They saw what you saw, they saw what your parents, and that's the thing that they were just like.
Every day. And then you have to remember back in my mother's generation, I was born in 1980. My mother, when she was having her kids, that was as she was developing, that was the crack era. And her sisters, and they carried that on. Her sister, her friends, and everybody had not on drugs.
Yes.
And thank God my mother and my daddy didn't, because it was so popular. Mm-hmm. Everybody was on drugs. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy to say that my mother and my father just overcame that social norm for them.
And that's
they
huge.
didn't become any of that. And although talking to her and getting those stories and picking with my aunties and my uncles, like, how you know, because whether we want to talk about this or not, we are blaming the generation for not preparing a healthier way for us. Mm-hmm. It's not talked about. It's not it's not even articulated in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. But I do look at my mother and my daddy, and I'm telling my parents the things that I feel like where you guys should have done better or should have known better. But the more and more I study trauma, and the more, and I'm learning about these things, now my language is beginning to shift how I explain these things to them. Yeah. You know, and even they see it the way that they see it.
Yeah.
Right? And seeing me and what I'm becoming and what I've been working on becoming, sometimes it can be offensive.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, and then there's a little bit of, parents think they're supposed to help their kid, in your case, like if you're independent and trying to do that, and and there's some guilt there, I think, for any parent. I mean, I'm a parent of adult children now, and it's like, I think, we always reflect back on how we could have been a better parent or whatever, but, and I think what I really appreciate about what you're doing, in addition to actually what you're doing, is like even being in an environment like this where you can try to help other people understand, because you've helped me understand a ton. I grew up in a tiny little town, and there was the way that I grew up is very very different than what you're describing as far as what you had to deal with, and and just helping people to understand the backstory and the generational, how it evolves into where things are at, what you're doing, so people can look at it, as opposed to, like you're saying, what you see in the media. You can look at it like just reflecting on what you've said and understand the why behind it,
and then helping people with the manifestation of their own trauma and kind of working through that as a
right.
Like just that framework that you set this up and like make them understand that there's a reason behind what they're understand what they're experiencing, because I think that's the hardest thing for people. It's like, why are we doing this, and then to be validated by an answer.
Right.
But it's being validated by people who so what I'm trying to say is anybody just can't do this work.
Yep.
Whether you're black or white. Sometimes, because I hear my experience in Madison has been more, they go get these people who just out of touch in their black. They don't have no idea what's happening. They have no idea what's going on. And my experience in Madison, they go get these kind of people to help another kind of group of people that grow up with a different sort of mentality, some sort like you was going through. Your black family, but you just can't imagine. Although you were introduced to it, you just can't imagine. And oftentimes, what we also don't talk about is when you all interview people like me and telling these stories, it's the shame. It's shameful that you know what I mean, that you have to live this way, and it's no fault of your own. It's the way that society introduced you to, and the way society see and treated in our historic past black people. Because whether we all accept it or not, that's the bottom line. That's how it all started. Mm-hmm. That's how it all started to create what we see today. Mm-hmm. It's shame. Shame. When you get up, it's shame for me to tell you ladies that these black males in my bloodline are dead. These deaths could have been prevented. These are preventive deaths. Absolutely. These are other people harming people because they're hurt, they're subjugated, they're confused, they're limited, socially limited, they're emotionally limited. You add all these people together on top of what society tells you are. You're going to act and behave that way because there's no other way out.
Yeah, the other way out. And which I think this is kind of a shift I want to make with our conversation a little bit too, because you're doing something about it. And I think that's the thing that I think a lot of people, when they hear about the generational cycle, and the trauma and poverty and everything else, for years and years, people have been trying to figure out, what can we do to change this? And you know, and as a white person too, I hear these things. I've heard this for many years, but it's like you have to involve people who are in the environment that live it and understand what's happening in order
speak
to
the
make
language.
change and speak the language. And so that's, you know, another reason I really appreciate what you're doing is because you actually have solutions, and you well, in all of your research and your professional career and 10 years of work on this, I mean, you know in and out better than anyone I've heard of.
I think so. I think I'm the champion of Black trauma. I'm one of them, led by a lot of research and a lot of elders that's alive today, and you know, a lot of ancestors that has gone on who's was able to extend this torch to me now. Although they're gone, their work still remains relevant in regards to the things that to help me understand the things that I was seeing when I really didn't understand what I was seeing. And so for me, yes, they need people like me, our community. But it's more of, again, how we see people. We're energy. Like we're having this energy exchange. Once I step in the room, those Black girls and those Black kids know that I'm not, my energy exudes that. I can't explain that to people.
It's your spirit. You have a very
I'm coming
spirit.
in and they know, like, oh, we know this, we know who's. And it's not that these kids, and we know the white and Black people, you know, because I went through it like, oh, this teacher ain't about nothing.
Yeah.
Like, she's crying. So I'm going to run all over her. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, I know that this white lady may not see me as a champion. We know this. These kids know this. And see, that's the amazing things about these babies. Because while society have given them this, they're taking this and doing that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
These kids are so smart and advanced. And you know how I know this to be true? Because I was so smart and advanced. And nobody was holding our community to those standards. Or nor we didn't have those resources to reach those standards. So now we have that, and your mother teaching you how to be parents. I don't want to parents or whatever family dynamics you come from. They're teaching us how to live that same dynamic as them, because that's all they know.
Right. Yeah.
So they're teaching us how to survive while being poor. You're not teaching us how to prosper and expand out from the south side of Chicago, out downtown Chicago, out downtown Madison, out downtown DC. You have to be also groomed up as well, just as like they groom you to be a way. You have to be groomed for success.
Right. And to be exposed to that.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and that's, I remember when you and I had a conversation, you were talking about how you, once you kind of got out and got into, you know, a different way of thinking or whatever, and how you really were excited to continue to go there, but then also to go back and help these girls the same way.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because Southside Chicago, every day until I got a job at ESPN Zone downtown Chicago. That was my,
that's cool.
You know, I was 16 and I begged the white GM, like, you gonna give me this job. I called him every day and left voice messages on his phone. And one day he called me back. He's like, come down here for this interview. And he hired me. He probably remembered me. And that was my first exposure to rich Blacks.
Sure.
Yeah, girl. It's all these celebrities, all these sports. I wasn't a sports fanatic then, so people telling me who these people are.
Yeah.
You know, so that was my first exposure. Right downtown Chicago, this little ghetto Black whatever, you know, girl coming down here kicking, showing who I was, getting among all these fancy people, meeting the fancy people who was college students and working, just meet fancy people who even just worked, who just wanted to work there, to meet all the people. I was exposed to so many
exposure.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh my God.
Gives you something to like build to, but if you don't see it, or if you're coming back home and you're doing this stuff and you're shamed for it because that's the value, that's the culture, then it makes it so much harder to like want to get ahead, to know, well, obviously know how to get ahead, but then also just want to, because survival, you know, obviously that it's just that's limiting in and of itself. Just waking up, being in survival mode, doing what you have to do, and then go to sleep. You know, how are you going to break out of it? But you have to see it. You know, to see it, to experience it. Then it's just like, nope, I'm doing a different grind. Like I'm doing something different.
And that's what I did. Grind. I got down there and was talking like, well, how do you do this? I was in white folks' faces. I was in African faces. I didn't care. Like, show my hands up. I was just, remember, I stated earlier, I was a little bit more advanced.
Yeah.
Than, so I had to reduce myself down just to even keep friends around me. But when I made it to ESPN, that was my kind of people. That's why I usually tell the black girls and black boys, get to know everybody you can know. I don't care how you see me. That's not my business. Excuse my language. Sorry. That's you. You have to work on that.
Yeah.
But while I'm in your presence, if I ask you a question, will you answer it? That's what you did. It's I don't know how to do this. I know how to do this, but I don't know how to do this.
Well, and that's the thing that I like too about like how you came to, because we don't all know everything, and I think that's something that is hard for people to have that courage to ask questions. I know so many people, like with my background and training and stuff, they have to feel safe and asking a question. They have to feel a certain level of trust with that person. But the ones that I've seen too, the people who have the grind, the people who are willing to work, be persistent, all that kind of stuff. Because that's
being comfortable with being uncomfortable, which is something we need to normalize in society.
Gosh. We can't grow. There's
we can't
talk out there.
We're just going to stay in our bubbles, and
we're not
going to be able to do this.
Grow unless we're willing to get uncomfortable.
Yep.
Right. I mean, otherwise
and talk about the hard things.
And
listen to
you
people who know.
Thought I was a crazy black woman, didn't you?
No. I
would say passionate.
Well, my friends, I was talking to one on the way here. I'm like, I'm going to be meeting with my feisty friend Jevon, and she's heard so many things about you, and she's like, oh my gosh, I wish I could be there, be a fly in the wall. She wants to meet you someday, but but I think that having that understanding of that passion we all have in different ways, we can appreciate that in each other. And some people might be afraid of passion and change and vision and all that kind of stuff.
It's intimidating.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of forcing them out of that comfort zone too.
That
and
confidence.
Not everyone can do that. Everyone's different.
Yeah, they are. But for I just want to add this little piece in. So imagine if the world is continuously showing black kids racism, we know that's a factor. We know that. But if you have that that's psychologically embedded in your head, you're not going to want to reach. You're going to be fearful to reach out and just expose yourself. But that's important. The things that they experience at school also, they can have good or bad experience with this, and that's going to determine how they're going to do things and how they're going to live. You can have a bad counselor, you can have a good counselor.
Right.
You can have a good teacher, you can have a bad teacher. But because of our terrible historical past, some of these things are embedded in people.
Yeah.
And
it's really hard to get
the teacher may not see it in herself and her biases, but she may be saying something biased, and treating somebody biased without that. She may be conscious of it, she may not. But my thing is the kids. The kids are this is affecting the kids. So you get my position. And so that leads me into why I'm, Pierre Outreach Safe Home. We know the harm that's being done in the homes. We know the harm that's been done in the schools. We know the harm that's being done when these girls go out to the community and these young men goes out into the. We know what's happened because it happened to me.
Yeah.
And we know what they're thinking. We know what they're thinking of process and how they want to act, how they want to respond. You can't tell somebody how to respond when somebody is treating them unkind. Then we become the sociopaths. Because it's a reason why these kids are acting out. There's a reason.
There's a reason.
So this is not their
societal, cultural coping mechanisms.
Yes, it's a reason. And for us to blame these babies because of their behavior is the definition of a sociopath.
It's heartbreaking.
It's putting somebody in a box and just like, and I think that's, you know, with the school system, it's hard because not everybody learns the same way, and you have to be cognizant. And that's, again, you don't know what you don't know, so you're saying, nope, this is a curriculum. You're all going to do this, and you're all going to look like this, and you don't understand why this student is doing worse than this student, but this student's normally really good at this. Well, because they're all the same, and that's kind of how cross-culturally, you know, it's just you're looking at this behavior, but you're not looking at these other factors that are so important as to why behavior is happening or what they're experiencing that's making this happen, or what you don't see about what you just said to that student.
Right.
You know, that sort of thing.
How it's going to impact him.
Right. And this is, now you're seeing the coping mechanism that is based on all of this stuff.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And some kids pull back. And I take kids here. I said, I wouldn't tell you guys, I know what's happening here. And so I just, you know, they care for these babies because they do not deserve this. Oh my God, if I can get you ladies in a room with some of these babies who I work with, who we deal with, hear the stories. These are the most advanced kids you're ever gonna meet. But when advanced kids is put in a box, okay, like me, okay, and then we have a societal norm that's historically around white ideology ways. This white. Okay, we don't even teach black kids who they are, where they come from. Hey, if it wasn't for black people, you wouldn't be sitting there. Okay, let's, you know, we don't teach the origins of black people. That way we learn nothing about ourselves. And we do not know about ourselves. We don't know the essence. We got to dumb that essence.
The beauty of what you offer is to the core, right? And I get it. I don't know if I just said that correctly, but yeah.
So they can connect and feel represented in, you know, in all this. I think it's a representation issue too. You know, just like there are black doctors and black scientists. Yes. There are black astronauts. They're like, you can do this. You know, it's, you just need to, again, it's about seeing it and hearing about it.
The path
and
too,
that it's,
right?
and that, you know, even just the atrocities that obviously we hear about slavery, but like some of these other things, so you hear about all the bad stuff.
This is what I am. This is what slaves.
But the representation that there are people out there like you, like other people who are just so successful, and they're doing it. You can do it too. Versus, you know.
Yes, but once when something becomes normalized, here's the thing. That's the mental. This is here. Everything is here psychologically. If I think this way, and this is the way that I know how to think. I'm the uncomfortable person, white or black, that people don't want to see. Let's be clear. Because I'm making, not I won't say making, but I am encouraging everybody to take accountability for their part in this. That's what's happening to these babies. So even in my community, they're like, oh man, she's good. Like, oh, you know, people do wrong for me. Even you know, women, grown women, even elders, like, oh.
Well, and yeah, like you said, I mean, it's, you know, the fact that you're taking the time to try to help people understand all of it, and that you have the solutions for it too. But you know,
the hard part is the change, and that's where everybody's losing. Everybody's throwing these programs out, all this money exchange. That has nothing to do with nothing. That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's not going to solve it.
No.
You know, it's just a quick fix, a Band-Aid approach.
It's not a quick fix. I don't even call it a quick fix, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's stupidity.
It's just wrong. It's just wrong. It's just incorrect.
Right. And so for a woman like me in my position and how knowledgeable I am on this, I don't know. I could be negative about it and make social medias like everybody do and get out. I don't do that.
Right. You just want to solve it.
I just want to I'm not.
Well, that's what I love about this lady. You know, you want to get it done. Yesterday, she wants to get it done yesterday. How many
people I can get on social media and expose people for what people have done to me, just in the process of me trying to help my own community. Yeah. And the irony of it is my community.
Yeah.
I know this is the gap who I represent, because I am the gap who you all talk about. I am that social norm. You know,
you're changing the status quo, and I think that's the point. Is people? That's why we need to normalize being, comfortable with being uncomfortable, because you embody changing the status quo. That's why, again, we love her so much, because you do this where you're just like, I don't care what none of y'all gonna say. I'm doing this because I see the problem, and we're going to solve it. Enough of this. We're going to solve it because these kids are being like pushed down and like.
Or not even only I see the problem, I was the problem.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I know this because I lived it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're on because you're not, instead of being worrying about what everybody's thinking and saying, you just need to get it done.
Yeah.
And so, and people who are listening to this and watching this, are people, like we've talked about this before, they're people who want to see things getting done also, because all the other stuff, like you're saying, is not working. It's stupidity. It's
that's my so for me.
Yeah.
Just looking at the way that I'm knowledge in why Black people are
why.
out. I know
why.
Yeah. And so to see how other social in the social and human services world in the fields, I see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that leads us to I know everybody gets the racism. I don't know what it is. It's stupid.
It's not going to really
accomplish things. So you just have to wonder, though.
Yeah.
Like, why don't nobody? It's so simple. Let us, and we rather do everything else but go get the right people to fix this. Nobody knows me.
Well, and some people have an agenda that's not about the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, this lady does not have an agenda except the kids.
Yeah.
So.
But what I'm saying is, you would think that I would be, because of my agenda and my passion, and that's be my professionalism, to go back and educate myself professionally.
Yes.
To go back in white institutions to get educated.
Sure.
So I can get uneducated to get re-educated,
right.
if that makes sense. To go in to see as a grown woman how to teaching folks, how to teach in the next generation was amazing to me.
Yeah.
Oh, did you just teach that? My
with
professor,
that
like Jevon, no, you can't do that.
No, like that when you go in with that critical lens, that critical thinking lens, and that's something that is seriously missing in schools nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. But to learn to unlearn, you went and you educated yourself so you could use that critical thinking element to break down these systems that are not working for these little Black girls that you're servicing.
Yes. But more important, not more importantly, but when I went back to school, it was white kids.
Yep.
A lot of white kids. Yeah. I went to school and I went back to college in Madison. Can I say the name? Okay.
Yeah.
I went to Edgewood. I went back to school at Edgewood, and those kids, and that's when it became more conscious to me of the cycle, how even racism is passed down through our education system. Because I didn't get in a lot of trouble, but I just made a fuss. Like, don't tell that baby that. That's what do you think?
You understand on a deeper level.
Yeah, like that's not true.
It's like, no, don't say that.
Well, you have to stand up when you see injustice and you see things being done wrong. Otherwise, how are we going to fix the problem if you're just going to allow it to continue?
Right, and I saw that as a conscious adult. My level of awareness, I saw how those babies was there for a fresh education, and they were being indoctrinated with just a bunch of lies.
Well, and and
that's not the way the world is really ran. That's not what you're really going to experience,
Which does them a disservice, because white kids, Black kids, Hispanic, it does everybody a disservice.
Yeah,
they're gonna go out there with blinders on.
Right. And that's why and I did make a lot of white kids uncomfortable, but I made a lot of white kids like, thank you, Jevon, thank you. I never thought about things like that. I did get a lot of that, and so that experience going back to school as an adult made me look at what was happening to the white community psychologically. To all of this that was happening. Because these were nice babies. Because they were babies to me when I was an adult.
Yeah.
They were babies. And I'm like, they were so sweet and just so naive.
Yeah.
And just was full of life and wanted to get educated. And so, but I will say this more importantly. This is, the Black kids were getting this. Oh, no, baby. And them the ones I got on the most. That's not what you're going to experience. This is not what you're going to go through. I had a spiritual right to put the blinders off those Black babies. There wasn't many of us, but I had to, because the psychology program at Edgewood was absolutely fabulous. I will say that.
Mhm.
Okay, I want because some of those guys, shout out to Farron. She was one of the best professors. She just let me go, man.
Well, that's the thing, you know. Yeah, I love seeing you just go. I love
Yes.
seeing you do your thing that only you can do. There's only one of you in this entire world, and thank God for for you. And but that's the thing that and I say that as this as the older woman, the older wise woman now that I love seeing people being their genuine, authentic self that they're meant to be, and how often a lot of us are felt or feel like we are in a box, or oh, you can't do that because people just don't do that, or whatever. It's like, don't tell people need to let people run and be who they are
Yes.
meant to be who
Yes.
God made them to be, and yeah. Well, and I know you have another question as with the.
I do. So going back to kind of the work you do, can you explain just why there's such an impact for young girls of color as it relates to generational trauma?
Yes, easy. Black girls have black babies.
Mm.
Those black babies we are the first natural and first teachers of our babies.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not healed, if we're not holistically solid in who we are, we're going to pass that down to our babies. And so when black men in my community hear me talk about this aspect of epigenetics, I'm going deeper.
Yes.
I'm not, you listen to what I'm saying. If we have DNA epigenetics, and then we have social epigenetics.
Yep.
These
Fascinating
things-
concept.
Yes,
Fascinating concept.
So before I got here, all of the issues that my mother didn't deal with is past. I have been getting inflicted.
Mhm.
I don't know. Now, I don't know this is being transferred to me.
Yep.
My sisters, my siblings. Yep. Let's go deeper. My mother, right?
Yep.
Okay, so now she, in a time she had to live in, being a black woman exposed to what she was exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it a little deeper. Her mother. Okay? Mama, please don't judge me. But I think her name was Mama Fanny. I think I'm screwing up her name. They called her Mama Fanny. And I think about Mama Fanny because of the things she must have went through as I go back through generations. Now we are descendants of hers. Well, my grandmother, my mother, and now I am in representation of their pain.
Yeah.
I hold it, and I didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right?
Mhm.
I got their stuff. I got all that crap laid on me.
Yep.
Socially and in my DNA, right?
Yeah.
Now society is re-injuring
Mm-hmm.
all of my own. They now have my own stuff that I have to deal with, and the things that's happening to me is
Compiled.
violence.
Yeah. Oh
Violence.
gosh, it just
Violence.
snowballs. It just snowballs, and
So now I have a baby, 3 black babies, 3 little girls. And the things that I didn't deal with, I see she just made 16. Shout out to Signature.
Congrats, girl.
Yes, 16.
That's a big milestone.
16-year-old. But I'm so proud of myself because I'm cleaning it up.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm aware
right.
of how to clean it up,
Yep.
I'm seeing the outcomes. Now, she's not perfect.
Who
I wanna
is?
be clear.
Yeah.
She's
None of us are.
She's a natural teenager, normal,
Yeah.
dumb stuff.
I was one of those ones.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
But she's going through her process of development. Healthy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is beautiful because
It's
then
healthy development.
your lineage, like your bloodline now is going to be able to stop this. Like you are single-handedly the reason that your daughters, when they grow up and if they want to start their own families, they're going to have healthy children.
Healthy development.
And then also have you there to
Yes.
continue it to
Yeah.
if there's problems in the future and stuff.
Mhm.
Which is why I'm so wanting this to grow so large because the problem is so large. Our society is massive with the problems, and there's so many of these kids that just like need that message, and we need it to stop because when we look at the birth rates too, and like underage and like all this stuff in the Black community, in our community. It's just like it's becoming so scary and so toxic and so sad, and we need to stop the pure survival, and just get into, and people are talking about it, but nobody's doing it, right?
Nobody knows the answer.
Well, and I should say the people who need to do it aren't doing it.
Yeah.
The people who would understand at your level aren't doing it. So, like, for you to also, train people and to get other people involved, that you see their spirit, you see their passion.
I have offered that even. I have offered that. Like, hey, if you guys need any, work.
And that's going to start developing more and more very soon.
I can't be everywhere.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
I can't be everywhere. I can't take on all these Black families. What I can do is I try to pull people into the psychological harm that's been done. To go deep. Everything is deep. You have to go in that dark area to see. But more importantly, let's even go deeper with epigenetic stuff. Now, if you're broken, you're more at risk to exposure to trafficking, exposure to sexual harm, exposure to inappropriate sexual behavior. I deal with this every day, and nobody's talking about it.
Well, and and that's how we started sort of talking, is because we've done the interviews and a lot of work in sex trafficking to try to help people understand, and that is such a complex issue. And so, can you share a little bit about?
And I know, just to frame this too for folks who might be listening, that is not the term that is used in the community, correct? That is what you had made.
No sex trafficking.
Right. Which the actual term just reveals how common it is, and they're unaware of how that's the technical term, or a different cultural term of what's happening. Yeah.
So for us in our community, from me, sex trafficking is not necessarily done the way that white culture teaches it.
Sure.
Sex trafficking for us, once I was able to break down the definition of what it was, people are just do that as a daily living. Now, because when I first heard the word sex trafficking, honestly, it's no shade. I didn't. I'm thinking a man snatching folks up into
That's what you see in movies.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and I'm like, well, shit. And I'm just confidently saying, it happens. It has happened. Let's be clear.
Sure.
That those things happen, but not frequently.
Well, in certain areas, right? What we're talking about as it relates to the vulnerable population.
That's the ones. What I'm talking about, sex trafficking to me in the community, is people consciously giving themselves away, sexually.
Well, I'm thinking,
and money. It can come in different elements.
Yeah.
Selling yourself. Yeah. Just having sex with anybody who will give you some kind of attention.
Sure.
This is sex trafficking yourself. And then convincing male or female, encouraging you who to have sex with. Okay? Should I go deeper? These things is happening right under our nose every day. And if you don't have the self-esteem, you're gonna live out these behaviors.
And it's still non-consensual, because are you really consenting to it if it's just a pure,
Right.
Yeah.
It's attention seeking. Most of these young girls, and let's be clear, their mothers have never dealt with some of the sexual abuse that may have happened to them during their primary stages of development. So now, unconsciously, these parents are teaching their daughters how to behave sexually and act out sexually. That's an unhealthy behavior when you're giving yourself away.
Right. You're devaluing yourself.
Yes.
I having daughters too, it's just like seeing the differences, and a lot of times it is the parenting where I've heard like, when back in the day it used to be, if you can get a good man to take care of you or whatever, as opposed to turning it around to thinking, okay, you have value independently of yourself to be able to live your life and take care of yourself and not be dependent on somebody else. But that's
or if you want a relationship, finding someone who's going to see that value.
Right, someone
finding,
to see that
seeking
value.
out someone not just for attention or what you can gain from them, or because you're having a self-confidence issue, but just looking at it as if I want a relationship, if I want somebody, it's got to be someone who's going to fulfill me, as a person, who's going to value me, and who's going to look at me as
Right.
not property, and not something. Because
Mhm.
I see it too, just like growing up as a millennial, that's something that's so ingrained in just our generation, right? Like watching kind of the sexual revolution in music and pop culture and stuff. It's so normal. Now it's just like having multiple partners and your body count, right, is like something I see on. I need to get off TikTok. I'm chronically on TikTok. It's a problem. But like that sort of thing and all these different podcasts talking about it and thinking it's funny, and it's just sad to me because I'm just like, all these young women, even young women of color, do they really want this? Do they really want this? And that's
Well, and that's what we found with our research too. Is like ultimately, if somebody didn't have the barriers, had options, weren't in that vulnerable spot, what would they want to be if they could choose?
If they were psychologically healthy and understood, like what you're teaching them, why they're doing what they're doing.
Because believe some of their mothers is in their 30s, 40s now, and they're out. We're not calling this sex trafficking, but they're out trying to find attention and love, a male companion.
Yeah.
And the way that they expose themselves to the community sexually, just trying to find love.
Right.
That's sex trafficking to me. But it may not be seen that way to the white community when we talk about the sex trafficking is the word, it's the term. I don't use that word in our spaces.
Oh, yeah.
So many things that we call it, because there's so many elements to that. When you break down what sex trafficking could be, right?
Absolutely.
So many, you could be selling yourself, you could be giving, and then let's go deeper. When you do get in a relationship with a guy that you think that can fulfill you, and how you are dealing with that mistreatment, how he's mistreating you sexually. Your conscious boyfriend, what he's doing to you behind closed doors and sexually exploiting you. Now, you may be in relationship with him, but that you get what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely.
What he's doing to you to psychologically re-injure what you already been going through. Let's go deeper. Most of these girls and these mothers who's getting into this relationship has been 90% tied to some sexual abuse. Okay?
Oh,
so these behaviors just not stemming from anywhere.
No,
you go back and you talk to these kids, you will find out in their mothers they have been sexually abused and nobody cared.
And that's where it starts at a young age to kind of just, I've talked to some of them that'll say that I grew up thinking that was my youth, that was my worth, that was what I was here on earth for.
Right.
And you're desensitized to it, so why wouldn't you then go
and
do that?
And then and the shame that you had mentioned. So if you think, even if they saw a glimpse of something up here, if they've already been convinced that this is what they are
conditioned,
and that's what they've been told, and that is across all cultures, if somebody has been abused in that way. But and normalizing it, brushing it under the rug, and all of these things that
even beyond sexual violence and violence in general. And I want to talk to you about that too, because that's part of the what you had brought up about gun violence and stuff. Obviously hurt people, and that's sort of the.
Because I tell the Black community, I've never been sexually abused. I had Black men around me to protect me, which is Larry and Maurice, and they're here with me in spirit, and so I'm clear on that. I'm not coming from that space. But what I'm clear on is the holistic factors of what's happening. I'm violent. You may be sexual. Yours could be in extreme poverty. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's different elements to this.
Yeah.
I'm saying I represent what we need to do better. And how I know, because now, I wasn't never sexually abused. Somehow, some way, me and my sister was talking about it. All my friends was.
Yeah.
And I used to ask, God, I'm like, why do I keep attracting friends whose uncles, what? Because that's not normal to me. From my world, I used to hear, Black men talking about what they'll do to these kind of people. So I used to ask, like, well, why he ain't dead?
Yeah. Well, I think we should touch on that. Wait.
And I'm being honest. And most of all of my friends were sexually abused. All of my good friends. And I could, why do I keep attracting? And then my sister, she's a year younger than me. She's like, yeah, because ain't none of this happened to my friends. She's like, I just never understood why you keep. So it's spiritual for me in my process of why I'm here. Because I had to unpack that. Even to like, why? My God, why would you?
Yeah.
You know,
Why is this my path?
What?
Well, and it's a continuous unpacking. I mean, I think that's the thing too that's so important is, you know, you're continuing to do more and more and more and more work in this, and continuing to unpack. It's the world is complex. People are complex, and and what I want to know more too is like what you're doing specifically with your safe house concept. Can you share that?
I sure can. It is a 10-year process of me also me returning back to school, and also me because I haven't got my therapy license yet. I'm still in the works with that. Have been in grad school. As you know, some things happened to me there, which caused me to not finish grad school in regards to my process of getting and obtaining everything that I needed to obtain. So my 10 years was basically going back and taking all this out of me first. Everything that I learned.
Work on that healing
before I got to the point of healing, I had to, like everything I've learned, everything that I've seen, had to get it out of me. The way that I talk, the way that I walk, the way that I ate, the way that I just lived. So that I can be a true example. When I step up, I can be an example and just not a mouth runner. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
An example of how to get this done. People learn visually. People don't learn socially. Right? What I mean by that is they hear a lot of people talking nonsense and things to them. They're talking at them. Right at you. It's a difference when somebody talk at you. I look at myself as I'm talking through you. But not only am I talking through you, I want to guide you through it. So you
and you're being an example. You're showing them.
I'm the example already. That's what I'm saying. I became an example. That's the unlearning part. Okay, let's go deeper. Studying Black trauma. I had to do that on a professional level because I needed to know what the I was talking about, right? And to make sure that I was giving our community the best.
And the specificity for that particular community.
Yes, so that I can make sure that you have something that you deserve. Because I didn't have it. Nobody never come through Chicago and said, this is what you Black girls and Black boys deserve. Not even our own kind. They got educated. They moved away. And let's be real. Once some Black people, not all Black people don't do this. Once you become successful psychologically, in my opinion, in my research, there's change there. And not necessarily for the best. I don't look what I mean, looking down on us.
I see that.
Come back and look down, and you never even came back to reach back to even help us out of this. You got what you got, and you left.
This is random. Have you seen? There's Medea movies. There's one specific that I like, and I think about it. The lawyer and his like hoity-toity wife, but then he brings home a friend from his old neighborhood, and she's like a prostitute, and he lets her sleep on the couch. Where his wife is like, they're all Black. And so it's kind of that dynamic of like looking down. So I totally, and even in my own family, like I see it. I totally see that. Yeah.
Now I'm this, I accomplished this, and but for me, I don't want to speak for the Black community. I have to speak for me. The way I've researched this and studying, because when you become a psychologist, you have to study a lot of history. To follow the patterns. And my mother's generation, yes, mother. Fortunately, you guys did great, but you guys dropped the ball in a lot of certain areas. And I'm not going to go deep into that. So I'm just saying they dropped the ball in handing us the torch. Okay? That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is also on top of that, in the Black community, it's seemingly, we're going to use the word seemingly to be positive. White society go get these kind of people because it makes them feel comfortable. I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. I don't care if you comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
My job is spiritually is to make you uncomfortable because this is not right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, people need to, they need to pay attention enough to get involved in the solutions and all of
And
that.
as long as somebody black sitting at the table and they're not holding you accountable.
I was just going to say that. The key word you said earlier, accountability.
Accountability. That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here. I'm holding everybody accountable.
Yeah.
Not just the white community. We, you know.
No, you calling out everybody.
I'm calling everybody. Like when when we get into our spaces, when I'm talking to, the work that I do, like, now, come on.
Mm-hmm.
You can't think that was okay. Let's go in and let's unpack. That was the stupidest.
She's got the look too. My mom's
girl.
got that look too.
I know if I walked into a classroom and you were my teacher, I think me and all of my friends, white, black, Hispanic, would all be like, we can't mess with this one.
Yeah.
Right.
She's powerful.
But they do.
Yeah.
But they do.
They try.
Do it in reason.
It's like
Yeah, it's like poking at me
Yeah.
in reason. Because one of my wellness girls she's so sweet. She just did something in her mind. She just doing things teenagers do, using me as an escape.
Yep.
When she had to have consequences,
Mm-hmm.
when she, she's like, and I'm explaining to her, I'm like, baby, just calm down. I'm not mad at you. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have done the same thing you would have done, but the difference between me and the other people who's blaming you is we're going to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sit down, we're going to in our spaces, and we're going to unpack everything that led up you deciding to use me. Because you knew you was going to have some consequences once the parents got a hold of me and let me know what you did. So this is why I love my job. It's no hiding.
Yeah.
You cannot hide from me.
I think that's why I love your energy. I had a detention teacher, Miss Johnson, and I had problems in class. I just never shut up. I did not care. You can tell me to be quiet. I just never shut up. But there was one time I walked into the room. I was like, "Hey, hi, Miss Johnson." Also, hi, Miss Johnson, if you're watching. She was such a formative person in my life because I'd walk in there and it was about this big, the detention room and in-school suspension room. And she would be like, there was one time she's like, "You have been in here far too much," and she's like, "I'm not. We're not playing this game anymore." And she just talked to me like my mom has never talked to me before, and I was just like, "You're right. You're right." I mean, I think my thing was it's not affecting my grades. Extra days. I'm in honors classes. Whatever. Screw it. And she was just like, "You are using your intelligence poorly right now. You are making bad choices." And I thought I was too cool for school. I was like, I'm smart. I'm smarter than all of you. That was kind of my thing. But Miss Johnson was just one of those people that I could not get past. It was I could run, I could be manipulative to all of my other teachers, and they would just be like, "Okay, whatever, get out of the classroom." But she would be like, "Nope, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna go back in there. You're gonna tell them Miss Johnson said blah 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 blah," and she straightened me out.
That's really good.
She straightened me out.
Kids need that. I mean, they and that's a gift. I don't have. I wish I had that with my kids. I don't. But yeah, I that was never me. So I appreciate people who have that ability to kind of, to in a loving way hold people accountable and So tell us about the safe house and how you're going to structure.
So the 10 years is basically because I want folks to understand that.
Yep.
How this was a 10-year process.
Yeah.
So long story short, in the sake of time, now I'm in the Madison community, and I'm like, hey, I've been working on this model about how to help the Black community, and doing my research, lots of research about Black condition and psychologically how this affects and permeates down generations and stuff like that. One thing pivotal I found in my research is Black girls from 12 to let's say 24. Okay, that's how it starts. And I started to look at that, unpack that, and just reflect back on my own life about this age. This is the critical development age, right here. This is how we losing folks. So I said, well, that's where I need to concentrate more, because this is where the problem is.
Yeah.
So how can I, knowing what I know about trauma and how this psychologically abuses people, right? So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So how can I make a program and and integrate, where we celebrate mothers and treating them with dignity and respect because of their trauma. How do professionals come in and integrate the two without an authoritarian? This is how we do this, and this is the way, and this is the way, and thinking that I'm better than folks and my way is the right way. How to incorporate them in helping themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's the trick.
Yeah.
That's not a trick, that's my method.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, see yourself. And so my spiritual mother, during my tenure, she said something about you have to get Black girls to reimagine themselves.
Yeah.
I love that word.
Yeah,
I love that
reimagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I took that,
Yep.
taking all these pieces from all these really, really smart people, and I'm building on it. And I came up with the Safe House. The Safe House model is not a group home. We're not your foster parents. We're not a foster home. We're none of that. Please don't, we're not that. But what we are is a place where kids can go so that we can integrate the services between the professionals and home life so that you can know how to do this in real time. You come to us, you live with us Monday through Thursday. We're going to send you back home. In real time, we're going to see you live up those tools you learned while you were at the Safe House. Not only, okay, so the Safe House is, like I said, for Black girls, from middle school to high school first. First, it was written for high school. I will be honest about that. But then the Black community, Black mothers came to me, knew what I was trying to do, and they said, well, Miss J, do you know what's happening in middle school? I knew what was happening there. I knew it, but I didn't know that it was that bad.
Yeah.
So they started telling me the stories about what these little middle schoolers were engaging in. My primary focus, like I shared with the Messiah Church and I shared with you, I don't lead with sex.
Yeah.
I do not lead with the sex. But sex happens a lot. Dumb sex. It's really, really dumb. And I'm like, oh. So I don't want to say I was blind to it, but I just thought because the babies were younger, the system had a better handle and care for those kids. And it turns out that they didn't. So after talking to some of the Black mothers in the community, I included some of the middle school girls in our Safe House model as I still was building and how can we make this comfortable for everybody. And so while you're working with me at these safe houses, they have a whole system and model to be at the safe house. It's things it's gonna be a healing, restoration process. What it looks like to heal, how to eat, how to reimagine yourself, but we're gonna do it in real time. So while I'm doing this over here, I'm gonna circle back and I'm gonna work with the mothers, the family, whatever family dynamic. And the best part about the Safe House program is that we're volunteer based. If you think you need it, you think you want it, let's go. I'm here. So while I'm working with your daughter, because she's gonna birth the next generation if she decides to have kids. And we don't fix this.
Right.
And you gotta help me. I'm invoking the mothers in to help me fix this while fixing themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm going through the process right along with them. Although I'm an expert in what I do, I just don't think I know everything. She knows her story.
Yeah.
They know their story better than I know their story, okay? That's what's vastly different about the kind of therapy that we do.
Yeah.
Show me how to help you.
Yeah.
Church, give it to me, girl. And this is how I give it to me. Let's lay it out. I'm not coming in using language that making them feel uncomfortable. I'm using language that makes them feel less than or I'm higher than them.
Or being authoritarian.
Right.
Like, here's the program. Here's what we're going to stick to. Why would it be custom?
Right. It's not because when you're going through the psychology school, I was just there with them folks and going through this. They teach you how to be one way.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here are your list of symptoms, and here are your list of treatments and diagnoses.
Or you sit there and let's get that.
You don't know their life and all of it. Yeah.
Right.
And I like that. I mean, I like how you incorporate the mother with daughter, you know, and I think that's one of the things that
Or
really
the
stood
family
out.
dynamic.
The family dynamics,
That's
individual
around
to
her.
them, because every family is different, every
Yes,
person's different.
they
so.
are.
And if you send a healthy child back into trauma, what you took
Right.
20 steps forward, you're taking 50 back.
They get
you know,
back
like
into
why?
the environment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
They can be healthy as they want. They can be, you know, great, but then you get that.
But in real time, they're gonna be learning that I'm just not what the world told me I am.
Yeah.
And it's coming from somebody who walks like me, talks like me. It didn't have to. I hate to use the word sellout. I don't want to use that term. But I was living out my true essence.
Yeah. And that they see that, and there's something they can strive for. There's something they see it's possible.
Yes.
You believe in them, and I think that's the other thing too, is you're believing in them, and they see you accomplishing it. And then the mother, you know, the other thing is the mothers or the families. I mean, they need that support, and you're there for them in a way that you're supporting them in how they need to be supported.
Yes, to catch the gray areas and getting my only job as express getting Black mothers to realize what went wrong, what happened, and how they are perpetuating the cycle. You may not know that this is what you're doing, but you're doing it. Hence, is what I stated with my mother.
Yeah.
It's almost like that's the best lady in the world.
Yeah.
But she, in a lot of ways, I try to watch how I try to articulate this to the outside. She wants best for me, but so I want to be clear about that. But it's almost offensive that I didn't live out what she taught me or something. You know what I mean? That's the way she makes me feel.
Yeah, yeah.
It's never, I'm proud of you. It's you know, it's a roundabout, I'm proud of you. Like, well, them white folks ain't gonna let you, is you scared? Or she's fear.
Fear, oh gosh, fear. Just imagine, I always say, imagine what we could do if we didn't have fear.
Yes, the fear, and she's,
and I'm sure she's genuine about her fear based on her own experiences and stuff.
Right.
You've seen this on this side of the healing. It's kind of just like,
and it's just more of the harm that she knows how vicious the world can be psychologically, because that's how they work in her area.
Absolutely.
So she's scared for me, so she's limiting me.
Exactly.
And not consciously aware of that's what she's doing. If I would listen to what you're telling me, that's not good advice.
Yeah, which is something I had to learn as a parent too. I mean, my boys are very little, but something I want to teach them growing up is that there's not strange people, there's strange behaviors. Because I think that's kind of the crux of it. Is like, if I make you scared of certain kinds of people, then I'm demonizing an entire group of people that I don't know based on my own fear of those people. And I don't want that for you. I want you to grow beyond that. But obviously, I need you to recognize strange behavior.
Yeah.
So anybody can, even people close to you, can have strange behaviors or things that make you scared. And that's something that is fair and valid, and you need to come tell me about that. So I think, unlearning that portion of it too, based on, the historical context is just so relevant, obviously. It makes sense.
Generational.
Yeah.
So what happened to her then, she's projecting that onto me and her babies.
Right.
And we're like, hey, look, I want to struggle like you, Mama. I want to open up. This is just not relegated to certain communities, these safe houses. We want to get this out there.
Yeah.
So along with my 10-year journey, being my experiences in Madison, I felt like these folks wasn't giving me the respect. Also felt like some of the folks was politicizing, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Of who they want to pick and choose to be, who they wanted to be.
Focusing on the kids, the babies,
Certain people get attention and certain people projects get funded, and and I'm like, okay, well, I had to learn that. I'm like, okay, well, that's how things are. How can I,
Yeah.
Then I went to Washington, D.C. Yes. It's Maya Angelou School in Washington, D.C. They run a Resi program down there, similar to my model. That's when first time, I was affirmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you needed to just keep
get that fire.
And they get it. They've lived it. They've done it, right?
Yeah.
And so I get Tuesday Hints, love you. I get down there, and it's like I met me in DC.
Yeah.
run those houses, show me how to run them, how to do. It was just an amazing
I love that.
lesson that I learned from just everybody Tuesday introduced me to in the process of building having a 20-year relationship with the community in DC, the Black community.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they took some things, I don't want to say take, but I learned some things from them. They learned some things from me about, because my model is definitely similar, but it's deeper.
Yeah, sure. The mothers and the families.
Yes, it's a lot. But they said you ain't going crazy.
Yeah.
They affirm like yes, that's how you do it, y'all. And these are 20 years. These are people been doing this, have a close relationship with the Black community because of trauma. So they're doing it in real time. And so she said, Jevon, stop. I remember this is after she did, when I left and flew back, she said, go to the community. Stop politicizing those kids, because they will make a political mockery out of what you're trying to do. And we know so well because we're giving to you what happens to us.
Well, and that's what I like too, is people who truly want to collaborate with the goal of helping these girls as opposed to their own agenda and their own egos or whatever. I mean, with you, it's all, it's all about the girls, and you can quickly pick up on people who might not be in support of you. It's not because it's not good, it's because they have their own agenda.
The things that they want to do.
I just
the mouthpieces, like you
mouthpieces.
The
previously
mouthpieces.
mentioned. The people who want to talk about it but don't want to do anything.
But it's more personal, I will add, when they're Black.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
that makes absolute sense.
Because
you're like,
are you
why
serious?
would you
What
want
y'all
this?
access?
Yeah, like you see the same things I'm seeing.
Right.
Why don't you want to? Yeah.
And they said, go to your community. See how you're raise this money through the community. They do not, if I can, do business with programming. When opposed to those houses, go to your community and ask for help.
Well, and this is something that this model that you have is something that we would love to see 10 years from now, it being duplicated across the country. And and I have a feeling we're gonna have to do a part 2, because we could talk
forever
and talk because there's so many awesome layers.
You are so dynamic, and there's just we're
gonna
add,
when they said reach out to the community. I reached out to you.
So
one of the people I reached out, and the universe brought me so many wonderful people behind you that I met you and so forth. And you know this. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't.
Well, and I still remember our first meeting, and you said it was divine intervention, and I always have to say this, a couple weeks before you approached me, I'd been praying for these girls. I swear to God, I was praying for these girls, like, we need to figure this out. And then you got in touch with me. I'm just like, it's
God is so fun that way.
It's just
Isn't
so
it cool
fun
when the pieces line up like that?
Well, and the people who when they're both praying for the same thing, he'll bring you together. And that's been what we've experienced with people who've come behind your work, and they don't know, but and they want to support you because they care about these girls. So it's all about that. And so when we start with, it's about the girls, it's about the children, it's about making them all thrive as the special, unique, amazing people that they are,
and they can be.
Yeah.
So in closing, I suppose, since we'll definitely do a part 2, as far as today and the stuff we talked about today, what's the most important takeaway you want our part 1 listeners and watchers to take away from this?
That's a great question.
Bring it on.
You all are limiting America. Because you guys are limiting the Black community. We are, and we could be, so much better if we gave what these kids deserve and looked at these babies the way they deserve to be looked at. We are losing as a society. And because one day I'm going to leave. I come here, I live, and one day I'm going to go back to the source in which I came. And when I return, I hope that's a long time from now. But I want wherever I come from, say, job well done.
Mm-hmm.
Job well done, my girl.
And we need, your help. We'll put on the website ways that you can try to help out. And donating is going to be a big one. Where she's at right now is you're finalizing the business plan and just
Yes.
getting everything all worked together. So
All
thank
the final
you.
touches.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to give you a big hug. God bless you. Thank you for what you do every day.
No problem. Thank you for
And
helping
for not
me.
being afraid.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, I'm sure you still probably have those moments, but thank you for pushing through that fear.
Yeah, and fighting for your community, our community, and
Yes.
seeing the value in kids who aren't told that they have value.
Yes.
Anyway, this has been wonderful. It's been great to have another episode and have a special guest this time, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.